Pete Trainor is the author of Calling the Dreamers, a book which delves into the captivating journey of his favourite childhood band. Collaborating closely with the band, the book reveals how their inspiring story intertwined with groundbreaking technology, ultimately reshaping the music industry. And Pete is with us here. How are you today?
I'm very well. I'm really excited to discuss this with you.
Now, what was it that inspired you to write Calling the Dreamers and, write about your favourite childhood band?
I mean, this has been an adventure, to say the very least. It's not my normal space, this. I come from a technology industry background. I'm known for work in artificial intelligence and stuff.
Yeah.
This is for me, the incredible story of kind of four intertwining parts. So I've always had a passion and love for music. I come from the southwest of England originally. There was a band in the 90s that came from our town that really inspired young people to stay off the streets, get into music, go to the pub. Like, we got into the scene, the 90s kind of music scene, because of two artists. PJ Harvey came from our town, and Electrasy. Now, the band's actual story was really fascinating as well. I then got into technology, and the book covers the kind of intersection of that upbringing with this band, their rise to fame, and then ultimately the technology that people like me helped create, bringing them down. And then we connected. I connected with the band a couple of 6 or 7 months ago, and we got talking about their story. And I was like, "Holy smoke! There's so much of my own story that weaves in and out of yours."
Yeah.
And the more we went into this, the more we realised that there was something really interesting worth exploring and documenting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, it got out of hand.
Well, you've actually used quite a lot of technology to make the book, because you've used artificial intelligence to rescue some old images to put in the book. So how do you think the technology contributed to the book's creation process? Was it a big part of it?
Yeah, I love that question. Technology, so in the four parts of the book, like the four intertwining parts, like the red thread that runs from the 90s to now is the kind of technology arc. And the technology arc has been massively chaotic. So from the inception of the MP3 in 1994 or whenever it was, to that kind of metastatizing and then creating piracy and blah, blah, blah. Like this incredible story of one tiny, simple piece of technology that took down an industry, to now, like, technology runs all the way through this. Now, when I got chatting with Steve, the guitar player from the band, at the end of last year, we realized that he had just an extraordinary amount of pictures, footage, old recordings, stuff from the 90s that was analog and scratchy. And I'm saying, look, dude, like, I've now got my hands on the kind of technology that would, for a almost no cost whatsoever, restore all of that. So every picture in the book, if you look at the original, it's scratchy and analog, and it's been taken on old disposable cameras or digital SLRs with like 5 megapixel sensors or whatever. We used AI tools to bring all of those into HD. So we modernized it, and by doing that with them, and we've done it with the videos, we've done it with we're starting to do it with some of the old recordings. We've got cassettes of old recordings, and it's almost like an apology to them for the way technology crippled the music industry and took it down. And we're now like, hey, here's an interesting opportunity to use some of this stuff to tell your story, to restore your confidence, to bring some of that stuff back to life. Beautiful photos in the book.
It's so fascinating and really useful that you can do that now, isn't it? Because if you use the old pictures, you just wouldn't maybe be able to make it out as much.
Exactly. And I think what's incredible about fans of bands and music is, like, most of the images from our childhood, my age group, they're in our heads. Now, we didn't have phones. We weren't taking pictures of every gig. We were literally staring at stages and artists performing. We weren't looking through our phones vicariously, filming everything all the time. So most of it's in our head. And any images that do exist from that time are a little bit low quality. So to be able to give them some of that kind of definition back, I think is really important, because a lot of fans now don't understand how big bands like that were in the 90s, because nothing exists to document it.
And how good is the enhancement? I mean, does it look like it's a picture taken on a high quality camera like today?
Yeah, some of it's incredible. Some of it is just like a kind of a rapid way of touching up a picture, like you would get a Photoshop artist to do right now. Some of it is just cutting the corners and doing that quickly. There are things that I'm seeing happening with this particular case study that have kind of blown my mind. So one example of that, Electrasy, we document this as well in the book. Electrasy had a very famous music video in 1998 for their biggest hit. It was a top 20 hit in the UK called Morning Afterglow. Now, Ali McKinnell, the lead singer of the band, sang the entire song backwards, and then they shot him destroying a room on camera, singing backwards, and then when they played it in reverse, it looked like he was constructing the room while singing the song. I mean, like, true story, one take, no CGI, just phenomenal. Now that music video, it's on YouTube, it exists, it looks terrible, like the quality is terrible. It was on MTV and the quality is like, old VHS tape. It's awful. The reconstruction of some of those shots from that video that are in the book are HD, almost ultra HD quality. We were able to do that in 30, 40 minutes.
Wow.
To reconstruct a video like that 2 years ago might have taken 6 weeks and $500,000. We're doing it for free in an hour. It's phenomenal. Like, the rate of change is really inspiring.
And of course, as you mentioned, the book covers technology in general, doesn't it? Because technology within the music industry has changed so much since the 90s, it's almost unrecognisable.
Yeah, and in 2008, I was actually the product director of a startup called Mflow. We were a music streaming platform. We were one of the first, even before Spotify. And we were looking at what had happened to the technology that had created piracy, and we were saying, is there a way of democratizing this? Is there a way of changing the paradigm on this, because it's crippling artists and labels? Technology has really taken a huge industry down, like a massive industry down. In the book, I don't know off the top of my head, in the book we talk about the album sales from kind of 1998 to 2005, like global, like the big ones, and we're talking about several million copies less a year, exponentially. So you go from, say Linkin Park selling 21 million albums in 2001 to the best-selling album in 2004 selling like 4 million. Like, it was that dramatic because of technology. And we've spoiled the consumer with free entry to music. You can have the entire world's catalogue for £4 a month. It's like, what have we done? It's crazy. So I think the tech line runs through the entire book. It takes it from the beginning to the end. But I think what's also really important is we use books like this to focus on the craft of the musician and the artist, because the work they put in to create the stuff doesn't change. So it takes them the same amount of time, money, energy, creative effort to create an album. It's the consumer behavior that's crushed it. It's fascinating and really kind of gutting at the same time sometimes.
And it's quite clear that your own kind of personal connection with the band goes beyond the book. So was this something that you always wanted to do, have some sort of tribute to the band? Yeah,
this is an itch I've been trying to scratch for a long time. When we set the company up in 2008, which went away quite quickly because Spotify took it down, sunk it. We were getting these hard drives. So 2008, we were getting hard drives of music from the labels, and it was phenomenal, like these big drives, and we had to re-encode them and then push them online, and part of the platform was so we could track music when it went into the wild. So it was like tagging songs. I went looking for the band's debut album, Beautiful Insane. So I went looking for Electrasy's album in those catalogues in 2008, so that I could start to share them with my friends, and that they did not exist in the catalogue.
Wow.
So in 2008, I was looking for my favorite debut album from the band that I grew up with. They weren't there, and that's always sat with me. I wanted to know where that band had gone and where that music was. And I'm not going to ruin it because we've got it throughout the book, but the book is also the story of kind of like where that album went. Like, where was it? Why did the industry bury it? And there's bits of the book that become like a whodunit. So for, goodness me, almost 15 years now, I've been hunting for that album and the story behind what went on with the band, until last year when our paths crossed serendipitously for various reasons, and we just went, okay, let's do this. And then when I started asking questions and going, I've been looking for that album for 15 years, where is it? They told me, and I was like, holy smoke, like, this is big. So anyway, that's the bait on the hook for your listeners.
Yes. It certainly sounds like a thrilling book when you've got all the whodunit stuff. When you eventually discovered it, was that the first time you'd heard it in years?
Yeah, I've always had CD copies of it, but of course, who has a CD player these days? I've got a vinyl copy of it somewhere as well. But, we get that album out sporadically as a group of friends. Like when we get together, we listen to it sporadically. I've always listened to their music, but that one album kind of disappeared. And just to put that album into context, it was produced by a guy called Robin Miller, who's huge. Like he was a massive producer in the 80s and 90s, massive. They recorded a large chunk of that album at Abbey Road. Like this is not a small album. This was a big album in terms of cost and budget. To rediscover it with them, get the story behind it and why it was buried, has been fascinating, like beyond the technology and stuff, really fascinating. Now, the hope is that within the next kind of year, we could get that album re-released and the book tells the story somewhat of why it's important that album gets re-released.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. And is there anything else that you're working on yourself at the moment? Do you think you could write another book?
This has been a joy. So the first book I wrote years and years ago now took me a long time and was kind of, intense, to get it done. This book we did in maybe like 4 or 5 months. It's 110,000 words. Like it's not small, it's big.
Yeah.
And it was, we found like an enjoyment in it and a flow. And there's a kind of, there's almost like a kind of multiverse paradigm going on here where the more people I spoke to, the more I went, wow, your story's fascinating. I could tell that as well. Or that producer that did that in his garage for you, he's fascinating. He worked with so-and-so. So I think there might be some spin-offs even from this one, just because it's not finished.
Yeah.
So I've got the itch to do more book work now with really fascinating people. And I think finding those intersections between humanity and technology is a space that I think the world needs to explore a lot more at the moment so that we don't codify everything that makes us brilliant. So there's some stuff in there I'm going to do.
Yeah, because I suppose with artificial intelligence, you've used it and got some good out of it and, it's helped you. But I suppose some people are scared of it and whatever. So we need a human thing, don't we?
Definitely. I think the other thing the music industry especially has to be really, really careful of is this idea that they can start to codify the artist. We're seeing a lot of this now where, sort of deepfake voice technology is writing sort of like we saw, there was one last year of Frank Sinatra doing Eminem.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of novel, but the implication of that is that you can read his voice and his lyrics with an algorithm. Like, what happens to him, and what rights does he have? And I think there's a tension here that's worth exploring for the craft industries that we need to fight hard for now. Yeah.
Well, this book is called Calling the Dreamers. Where are all the places that we're able to find it?
My hard work. It's currently only in hardback. We're not releasing it digitally because of the irony of the technology. You can get it on Amazon. It's available globally through the Amazon platform. We're getting it into the shops right now, but Amazon's the best place to buy it.
Excellent. I prefer a physical copy anyway.
Good solid one as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can put coffee on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, many thanks for talking to us today. It's been great having you here.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for listening.